What you're about to hear are excerpts from a project Doug Kramer and I were working on before he died. I thought it'd be nice to hear from Doug. I have not listened to this file since we taped it on November 14 of last year. So this is me skimming through 149 minutes of our discussion, and I hope it doesn't seem too disjointed. You will hear some fading in and out. I thought that our interaction was really good for this recording. It just made me laugh, and I included outtakes to give you a glimpse of how funny and how real he was. So, if you know about my project comparing Maury Terry's The Ultimate Evil with Josh Zeman's Search for the Sons of Sam, the books, you'll be happy to know that it was actually Doug that pointed out the difference in the intro to me. I think he definitely would have approved of this project. I think we were pretty good friends. We were both really into David McGowan. If you have not checked out Dave McGowan's other books, aside from PTK and the Laurel Canyon book, he's got quite a bit out there. My favorite book is Wagging the Moondoggie. Doug was really well read. One of the things I was surprised to find is that he had read all of these authors that they're the authors of our enslavement. Of course, makes perfect sense that he had read these books, but we would be talking about Walter Lippmann, Edward Bernays, the Huxleys, Bertrand Russell, Brzezinski. If you did not see that video that Doug made where he explores Aldous Huxley's work, that whole aspect is really fascinating, and this is something that he was hoping to delve into a bit more. Of course, we did talk about the cult think and the brainwashing of the cult of Scientology, but I don't think that Doug wanted to be defined by this for the rest of his life. He really wanted to wake his audience up to a lot of other things. If you watch Doug's H.G. Tudor interviews, you already know that Doug was a contagion empath. This really explains Doug. A contagion empath is the truest empath. They absorb others' emotions, good and bad. And this is why Doug needed so much time alone, away from people. So, Doug was pretty much at odds with his life in California. It wasn't the same. It was never going to be the same. He didn't mesh. I asked him if he might leave, but he said he felt that he would stay in the belly of the beast, and that's what he called it. Doug was 100% against the. He was vehemently against the use of pharmaceuticals. He did not believe in politics. It's an illusion of choice. Doug didn't vote. We had that in common. Neither do I. We laughed a lot, but the world was really heavy to him. Hellscape is the word that Doug used. Some people might be thinking these are not very nice things to say about a person, but to me, these are the things that made Doug a kick-ass dude. I really did not intend to be on his show. I just sent the Maury Terry files as soon as they were leaked. I sent these files over to him for his research. But the more we talked, he really needed some help with that information. It's a ton. If you know the Maury Terry files, it's very dense. It's a ton of information. He needed help with that. I became comfortable with that idea after getting to know him. The first taping of the conversation was really fun, and you can hear how stoked he is at the end. But I'm telling you, Doug wanted to make sure his entire audience could follow along with this. So ultimately, what he wanted to do was kind of start from scratch and tape more of a ground level presentation. And that just didn't happen because, due to some things that were happening in the community, I just wanted to present the files. My number one goal was and always has been getting ahead of the Maury haters, and we did have that in common. We talked a lot about a friend of mine that was murdered, and in the same conversation, we wondered if Dave McGowan's death was not manipulated. And Doug just told me that he was going to go all out. His exact words were, "Who gives a fuck if I die? I just want the truth out there." That's what he said to me. If you truly knew Doug, you would know that there's nothing wrong with asking questions. Asking questions doesn't mean I won't accept answers, but I would be betraying him if I did not ask the question. By the way, I was on the phone with Doug when he was arguing with Dana online, and I just want you to know that Doug respected Dana's work, and he even admonished me when I said something negative about her. So I'm quite sure that they would have mended this row. Anyway, I really enjoyed listening to this taping, and maybe you had to be there, but I hope you'll enjoy it too. You're gonna hear Doug uncensored. I left some outtakes at the end of this audio so you can just see how sweet and how kind Doug is and how complimentary he is. But I would tell him very often that he was great, and he just didn't believe it. I'm grateful that I was prompted to go back to this recording. It's really amazing to hear it. I was not planning to release any part of this. Doug would have been in charge of editing and making it into what he envisioned, and when he died, I was just content to keep it to myself. Thank you for listening.
Friends, welcome to a very special broadcast. Now, those of you that have followed the channel, particularly the deep dive videos that we do, will already be somewhat familiar with David Berkowitz and the Son of Sam murders. Now, there are cursory connections that go into Scientology, the Process Church, etc. And I'm going to link in the description box the various videos that we've covered on this subject. But we have a very special guest, and we have some new files that have come to light that have yet to be shown, which we're going to present to you. And I would like to call this person my so called expert because when it comes to the deep dive that she's capable of doing, this is going to be out of my league. And we're going to learn, I'm also going to learn a lot too, because there's some fascinating information in here. What we're going to do in video one, because this is going to be a multi part series, going down the rabbit hole in this case, which seems to be never ending. And there's a whole community surrounding this, which our guest is going to talk about. But let us lay down the foundation first and then know that there's multiple episodes coming where we're going to, as sequentially as we can get it, because it jumps all over the place, we're going to show you these files that come from Maury Terry. There's various interviews with cult members. There's a ton of material to go over. So we don't know how many parts it's going to be, but this is going to be fascinating because we're going to get probably some of the best insight on this case, hopefully, when we're done. And we encourage you to, in the comments section, because I have a feeling, this case is taken very seriously among certain people. So if we draw some of those people over here and they have comments or they have leads or they have information that they'd like to correct or anything, please let us know in the comment section on each of the video because we have a structure, but we'd like to encourage an open dialogue so we know where to take this series. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce my guest who's going to remain anonymous for reasons that should be kind of obvious. How are you doing, my friend? And where would you like to start in terms of what you have to say, the introduction, and kind of your own background?
Thank you. I appreciate that. I do remain anonymous. I write, I do research, I pass my research to other researchers. I'm in a unique position to talk about these files because I know the people involved. I've been in that community. I ended up leaving the Facebook arena. I can kind of see this from many sides, also having some communication with David Berkowitz.
Oh, you've been in communication with him personally? I'm just going to call you D, okay? A lot of
Okay.
people don't know, D, that there was a conspiracy that Maury
Yeah.
Terry infamously brought forward in his book, The Ultimate Evil. That's probably the best known source that, put this on the map as was David the only shooter or not? So let me play the trailer, then we'll pick right up from where we left off, and you can lead us into the cast of characters and the overview and a little bit more of your background before we really get into it in video two. So that's the basic thesis, my friends, and it does tie into Scientology and the Process Church of the Final Judgment, which is an offshoot of Scientology. I'm sure we'll be getting into that as we go into this, but probably not in this first broadcast. Anything you wanted to say, D, about what we just saw and what angle you're coming at this from?
I did not come into this case from Siemens series. I just came into it about 3 years ago, and I did not come from Siemens series. I won't watch that. I've never seen it. I refuse. I'm not saying I know it's visually very nice, and that's cool, but it's not fair to Maury.
It's still
Told
worth
me
watching.
a number of my research friends have tried to get me to watch it, but no, I don't do Netflix either, so it's kind of a
I do
loop.
understand that.
So we're going to be talking about these files that were recently leaked, and they are the files belonging to Maury Terry's estate. So these are all his notes, just and a lot of things that he couldn't put in the book, or maybe meant to put in the next edition of the book. It includes a lot of official documents, meaning police reports over many jurisdictions, over several states. There's death certificates, military records, interrogation reports, plenty of witness testimony. You had a lot of law enforcement people that got together on their own, and then you had some journalists, that kind of joined in that. I mean, it was a very, I want to say, close knit network of people that were investigating on all angles in different states, collaborating. So, these files, and I want to say, like, this dump of files is only a partial. Gosh, I've been into it already, I don't know, 4 weeks maybe, and it's dense. Couple of thousand pages anyway.
That's why I'm
Um,
so thankful you come on, by the way, D, because I
mhm,
can't, there's tons of them when you send them over. And I need someone with your knowledge to actually break this down and put it into some coherent form. But I definitely recognize it
mhm,
as a treasure trove of, I'm really excited to see what the hell we're going to discover with this series because there's some amazing information in these documents that, like you said, has
mhm,
never seen the light of day. It wasn't in Maury Terry's book, The Ultimate Evil, that started all this. And it already gave me some insight just going through
mhm.
the several hundred that I already have. I can't wait to see what's in this thing.
They were protected for good reason. There's a lot of personal information in here, a lot of social security numbers. In other words, people were being officially traced. It's not just some flimsy investigation, as some creators would try to convince you.
Who would that be? Manny Grossman?
I don't know who that would be. The files name names, people who are alive, people who've never been indicted, people with some pretty deep pockets, like over $100 million in donations each year, kind of deep pockets. So, we don't want to step on that, but
We're not going to stir the hornet's nest, and we're going to cover over
mhm,
names where it could be,
mhm,
it might not be the best option, but nonetheless,
absolutely.
we do have the files, and we'll block out and not throw everybody under the bus or make accusations or whatever. But these files are fucking fascinating, my friends.
Well, even I found, there's a letter. We're going to block out this information, but there's a letter that I do want to show in particular. People came out of the woodwork really to tell what they knew, especially in North Dakota. Maybe not so much in New York City, but you just have like random letters from people that saw the unsolved mysteries piece and wrote to Maury to tell him what they knew. There was this guy that wrote in about several car dealerships and how, it was a drug trafficking operation. In New York City, the investigation was shut down. They already had their guy in jail and just shut it down. And we will get to the crimes here in a minute, but
Hmm.
kind of an overview of the aftermath. But it was very obvious to everyone involved that this was a wide conspiracy. So you had all these folks in North Dakota. You had a lot of law enforcement, and you had journalists that were working on this all together, kind of collaborating. So we'll look at a lot of different kinds of examples. You had members, I already said, coming out in droves, coming out of the community, especially in North Dakota, and coming forward out of great fear of repercussion. So, in a word, there's the files are corroboration of everything that was in Maury's book. And, don't let these hacks tell you otherwise. I've had it up to here with how Maury was a dick and an asshole and a liar,
Yeah.
and he let the clock run out, and he hid things from us, and he was
And he was a
crazy.
drinker, and yeah,
Right.
that's what I understand why you don't want to watch Zeman's thing now
Mhm,
because let's just say they ended it off on
mhm,
the very notes that you just played on the piano there about what gets spread over and over. It's almost like there's too much work
mhm.
discrediting this when there's endless evidence, which we're
Oh,
going to
it's
get into
amazing.
already.
Yeah, well, the effort to shut it down, I mean, I don't know, for me, it makes me wonder why. It makes me look at
Yeah, of
who are
course.
the people trying to, convince me that this wasn't the case.
Yeah, and there is a concerted effort, by the way, guys. If you're
Mhm,
new to this community, I'm no expert, but just even tapping into it in the few videos we've done, there does seem to be a concerted effort just to
mhm,
make it not a conspiracy when there's endless evidence, at least suggesting that there's other things involved, like drug running, pornography, etc., all the way up
mhm,
to snuff films and everything, which we'll get into. But for
mhm,
all that to be discredited with certain creators and videos and documentaries that have come out, even recently. there does appear to be a reason why there's so much smoke kicked into this and dirt kicked into this
Yeah.
information. Why do you have any insight on that, by the way?
There are just a couple of tiny things that I have. Maybe I don't even have a problem with them, but I can see why there's due. Like when he talked about the Iron Maiden lyrics, okay, I get that. Or he talked about the Rush, but that really pissed Manny off when he talked about Rush. But
That
you
guy's
know,
such a douchebag, by the way. I'm just going to say it flat out. I followed Manny Grossman for a while, but he talk about
yeah,
taking people off the trail, the son of Sam. That guy's
we,
ridiculous, by the way. And he's an example of what we're talking about here, where these
mhm,
people come out of the woodwork. We don't know if they're paid off or not, what the motivation is, but especially when
mhm,
Zeman's documentary kicked off, let's just
mhm,
say the whole drama spewed out
mhm,
again. And there's so much misinformation. Not that we even know what the actual truth is, but there is a
mhm,
concerted effort by idiots
mhm,
that seem to have a motivation to take people off the trail and send them down to.
mhm,
I mean, Manny Grossman's conclusion was David was, in fact, just a lone shooter. And it's just amazing to watch these hacks try to, for what reason? Who the hell knows? I still don't understand. I wouldn't waste my time doing that when I know a lot of what he puts out is false, but nonetheless, we have people in our community, D, where they've infiltrated into the ex Scientology community and become the so called experts. Mind you, they never even lived the experience of being in the cult or a cult in general. And they're going to
mhm,
come into our community and kick sand and dust in the narrative and try to get everybody
mhm,
off the trail, or who knows what the reason is. I don't know. But Manny Grossman, I consider one of these major characters. It is a complete hack and talks out of two sides of his mouth and
mhm.
stirs the narrative in a way that doesn't make any actual sense.
I mean, it's one of the most accurate and useful books we have. In The Son of Sam, we're looking at a microcosm. You and I talked about that before. It's just a microcosm. It's like a small cell in a large body of cells. This scenario, this formula, I would even venture to say this franchise is what we see over and over and over again. When we get to some of these elements, you'll know what I mean. But you already mentioned like the drug running and the trafficking, especially the child trafficking, the snuff. I mean, it's like a cookie cutter. It's very PTK in that way. Definitely, we both.
We don't want to go over people's heads, but yes, I was just going to say that. D PTK is in reference to Program to Kill. That's a book that, in my opinion, if you really want to cut through the bullshit, because like D said, the Son of Sam is a microcosm of what happens over and over and over again. We have endless evidence, which you've shown on the channel, to show this repeating pattern. And you're also explaining why, with the aforementioned drug running, the snuff films, etc., why there
Mhm.
would be Manny Grossmans and other people. Now, maybe he doesn't even know and
Yeah.
he's being used. Who knows? But there's always
Well.
people that come out of the woodwork, just like in the Scientology community. Whenever you get into the murders made to look like suicides and the trafficking and stuff, there does seem to be a concerted effort in these communities where low hanging fruit come in and just try to kick sand around. And that, generally speaking, is enough to get people completely off the trail, whether we're talking about Scientology and trying to get them exposed, the Son of Sam cult, where, according to certain people, there was no such thing. And I believe that we're seeing the same recurring pattern. And what D is referring to is a book that was written in 2004, by the way.
Mhm.
I mean, if Dave McGowan was alive today, what he would have to say and update Program to Kill would be amazing. But let's just say in
Amazing.
2004, if you want to get an overview of how all this interconnected crap that's been going on forever works, it's an amazing, amazing book that he does cover the Son of Sam amongst Herbert Mullen, Jeffrey Dahmer, the serial
Mhm.
killer phenomena that was kicking off in the late 60s, early 70s. It gives you an overview of the drug running, the snuff films, how the cults are used as a front group for these things. And it's no different
Mhm.
in the Son of Sam case. So I just wanted to let you know we're trying to present it in a way where nobody knows nothing. So if we
Mhm.
throw out words or something, sorry to interject, but I just wanted people
Mhm.
to know how what the hell you meant by PTK, because it goes deep and it can get confusing real fast.
I mean, when we start talking about Larry Malenko, not his real name, but I think if anybody has read The Ultimate Evil, you know who Larry Malenko is. I mean, Larry Malenko is very similar to Leonard Lake. Same setup there, where you have like a cult farm. And that's why I'm saying it's almost like a franchise. For those of us paying attention, we see how similar the schematic is.
Point
And,
taken. I hear you. I'm on the same page because when
you
you
know,
look into this long enough and you connect enough dots,
yeah.
it becomes really infuriating when people microscopically focus on one element and not see the bigger picture, which actually does make sense of not only this case, but the cult I've been trying to expose forever, my friend, Scientology. There's
Uh-huh.
so
Yeah.
much to it, but it can be hard to actually get to the core of it because there's so much controlled opposition bullshit. And it happens in all these communities, right?
I mean, it would be funny if it wasn't so sad that people are that gullible. I mean,
I
I
know it's the problem. It's not the people putting it out. It's the fans that build up where I had a million people come over to the material that I did on Son of Sam, knowing that Manny's talking out of his ass. And they say,
Mhm.
have you seen Manny's channel? And this, it's like,
Oh,
guys, they get hypnotized by their favorite creator that's totally leaving them astray.
mm,
And then they keep believing it. And I'm sitting there scratching my head going, well, just like what we talked about, if you read Program to Kill, that alone,
mhm,
that will disabuse people of the million questions that come in that disinfo agents like Manny and other people are putting out, where they don't see the bigger picture and they get sucked into fandom, where they start
yeah,
repeating what that creator says to them, go on to other channels as if that's the official narrative. I've had to deal with this in the X community too, D. People will come and hear something from the popular creators that's not true, and then it becomes officialdom, and then this is what you go up against trying to disabuse people of stuff we should have gotten past a long time ago because we're trying to look at the bigger picture. You know what I'm saying? I'm
yeah,
sure you know what
definitely.
I'm saying.
Mhm.
Battling it out in this very specific set of Sam community because they could be just as territorial as the ex Scientologist.
We're all on our own journey of realization. We all have to have discernment to survive, this. I mean, the world is getting more and more complicated all the time, and your survival depends on your ability to discern. So you have to learn to spot the dupe. I'm not trying to lecture anybody, but I'm just saying don't put whole ideas in your mouth and just swallow them. We have to inspect everything against what we know.
Well said. I cannot agree more.
We
Okay.
need to know that this beyond the shadow of a doubt, this is a group that is an intelligence construct. I mean, you
There you
have
go. There you go.
Tavistock in London, and then you have Esalen in Big Sur, California. And I know that pretty much everybody knows Tavistock, but Esalen is just the British handoff. Esalen is the Tavistock in America. And the purpose is thought engineering, steering the herd. It's about control. They've been engineering us for many decades. They have this thing called the lostness of the mind. Pathway to that is chaos, order out of chaos. There are a lot of books that we can read that kind of lay that down. They run their black operations. I mean, it makes them very wealthy, but it gives them power. They're able to compromise people. They can use these operations to compromise people at the top. They need that so that they have officials to do their bidding. We already know this. It goes on everywhere. But I dare say that they want narcissists. I would really like to look at that document that you and I were talking about, Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars. It's right there in the document how they say that they just need people who will carry out the mission and never flinch. That's all they want. And so I think like maybe a very violent cult is great for this. You have people who are already enthusiastic about killing for fun or for ritual or
Or
whatever.
not even that, D. Just, you can get up to some funky shit in Scientology while going in there with good intentions. But when you go through the mind reframe, the very sophisticated brainwashing, you can actually get involved in activities that are reframed to seem good for the cult, which becomes your world, not even knowing that you're a quote bad person. So it's not like they're looking for serial killers to join Scientology, but you can be
Mhm,
made into a
mhm,
conscienceless person over time,
mhm,
which is what
mhm.
makes them a great cover intelligence asset and a great pool to pick from people, just like you're saying.
I mean, it does kinda tie in really, really nicely for them, doesn't it?
It really does.
Um,
It really does. This is what goes back to why you'd have to recruit psychopaths and narcissists and sociopaths to carry out these kind of acts.
mhm,
That's absolutely
mhm.
unthinkable.
Yeah, totally.
This is really good so
Uh-huh.
far. Do you think that would be a lead in for video two? My own journey trying to understand Scientology.
Mhm,
And Michael Carr, they found a phone
mhm,
number to the Clearwater headquarters in
mhm.
Scientology in Berkowitz's apartment. Again, I'm jumping ahead, but there's it's just
Yeah,
I fell into this because of the Scientology Connect. Now, why would he have the number to a Scientology facility? It's like the
convoluted.
ultimate true crime
Oh
dot
my god.
connecting. Nobody's really solved it, right? Controversial, ongoing. thing, and this happened in the fucking 70s, and we still have the debates and the cover-ups and the
I mean,
Manny Grossmans coming in.
I'll tell you what it is, like, if you like rabbit holes, this is something you can get into and never
No
get out
shit.
of
I
because it's
don't
just
recommend it
endless
to,
people.
right? You don't recommend it either, right, D? I mean, if you have a
It's
life, don't
fascinating,
go
though.
down. It is fascinating, but it can and has consumed people's lives if you dare go down this rabbit hole.
Totally.
This is really good. We got the material.
He's a black witch. He's still alive. He was known as the Wiz, at least in those times. He lived in North Dakota, sometimes in Minnesota, but he got around. He was all over Europe, and he partook in a lot of ritual activity, either at or near the Vatican, like ritual murders. We're speculating that he was the doer of the ritual murders at or near the Vatican. He was affiliated with Warner Brothers, and he attended workshops at Esalen. Esalen is a common theme.
We will definitely be hitting a whole thing on Esalen. I'm glad you brought that up.
Mhm.
That's part of this series, my friends. There's a ton of information.
He was murdered ritual style in the desert by Bill Mentzer, and Bill Mentzer is Manson too. And I
No
wanted
shit.
I wanted to ask though, I just found this out. There is a series, like an audio series called Killing Hollywood. It's about the Roy Raden murder. Have you heard of that? And it stars Juliette Lewis.
Well, only because you told me about it, and I did actually take the time to find it because I had not heard of it, and
Uh-huh.
it did catch my attention when you mentioned that Juliette Lewis is involved in this freaking thing. So let me play the thing, and this will hit a lot of dots that will allow us
Okay,
to kind
cool.
of let this be the final cast of characters, so we don't overwhelm people. But isn't it fascinating that Juliette Lewis just happens to be a part of this, and it looks incredible. I'm actually going to check it out as soon as we're done here. We've covered enough on, like I said, the background, the victims, the cast of characters, and what we're going to be getting into. And if so, can you tell us what we're going to be getting into and the jumping off point that will
Mhm.
lead into these files that we've been teasing for the last
Right.
hour? Perfect.
Mhm.
That's why I really appreciate you reaching out. I've gotten to know you and I trust you, and
Mhm.
hopefully vice
Thank
versa.
you.
So I really appreciate you having the,
I do.
just helping out in the knowledge because I want to know more about this for myself. And it's
Mhm.
just I really appreciate you taking the time, putting yourself on the line a bit to break this all down for us.
Absolutely.
Do you mind taking the outro? I think I have enough where I
Okay.
can just thank you after you're done. Do you want to give a
Sure.
conclusion? You want to take a crack at it?
Sure. Okay, so the next time we get together, we are going to share screen and we're going to look at some of the documents. And I do just want to reiterate that we are doing this because the files are out there. I'm not really one to, suppress information, but given the material, it's just very sensitive. So we're going to approach it from that standpoint. And we were definitely going to look at some things, but I just want to, have it be known that that we are going to treat these files very carefully. And when we get together again, we're going to start looking.
That's why I really appreciate you reaching out, not only having the knowledge, but treating it the way that you do and seeming like you're hitting this from a sincere angle. Hold on to your hats, man, because there's some explosive new information and we'll guide through this material together. But I'm really excited to go over this and hopefully we'll do it justice. And I just really appreciate you reaching out to do it justice. Thanks for joining us. Take care, my friends, until we have Son of Sam Part 2. Something like that, or was that a stupid
Yeah.
outro?
No, that was great. That was
We
great.
we
You're
should have
always
come up
so
with it.
hard on yourself.
I just want to get it
You
right.
shouldn't be. No,
You're a gift. You did a fucking awesome job, honestly, of presenting this, especially since it's so hard to do. We're a team here, man. I think we laid down some good shit. This is going to look really cool when it's done. Trust me. I'm just excited what I can do with this.